Yahoo!
Shigeru Miyamoto is the most important audience member. At least that's the vision when Illumination joined forces with Nintendo to make big-budget blockbuster Mario movies based on Miyamoto's iconic original character, who just so happens to be celebrating his 40th anniversary this year. At the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto, Japan, I sat down with legendary game designer Shigeru Miyamoto and Illumination founder Chris Meledandri to find out how they collaborate together, why they went to the galaxy for the sequel, and the grand plan to get Pikmin into everything. In 2023, Illumination and Nintendo's Super Mario movie was a massive success, becoming the second biggest movie of the year behind Barbie, as well as the highest grossing video game movie of all time. A sequel was inevitable, but when the Super Mario Galaxy movie title was first revealed, many Nintendo fans wondered why the films were jumping over previous Mario games and going straight to Super Mario Galaxy for the sequel. After all, while 2007's and 2010's Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 games are masterpieces brimming with fun and ingenuity, it seemed like Super Mario World was the next logical place for the movies to go. But Miyamoto has a really good reason for why Mario needed to go to outer space for his second film. You know, on the first movie, when we were working on it, we hadn't really decided whether the movie was going to take place mostly in Brooklyn, or is it going to take place mostly in the Mushroom Kingdom. That wasn't set yet, but when we decided that we were going to put Donkey Kong Country near the Mushroom Kingdom, it got me to think, okay, most of the movie's probably going to take place in the Mushroom Kingdom, and that helped me get to the place where, okay, if we expand this out to Galaxy, that makes sense to me. Because it's not a galaxy that exists above Brooklyn, it's a galaxy that's above the Mushroom Kingdom. And then, again, that sat well with me, and it made sense to me. Illumination head Chris Meledandri backs up this creative decision, having come from a long history of successful creative projects himself, from smash hit animated movies like Minions and Despicable Me, to breakout hits like the 1993 Jamaican bobsledding team movie Cool Runnings. Mr. Meledandri has a great philosophy for the Mario movies, treating them like they're more of a celebration of the character's entire game franchise rather than just being an adaptation of one specific title, allowing them to take bits and pieces from Mario's whole history to create something entirely new. It's also nice that we give ourselves a bit of freedom from having to really be locked into any one game as the reference. We've given ourselves the freedom to, pull an element in from Odyssey, and what we've also discovered is that we find ourselves wanting to avoid being too predictable. Because when things are too predictable, I find that it's not exciting us and it's not exciting our creative teams. So with a bit more latitude to look for the ideas that are either as visually compelling as Galaxy, or as emotionally compelling because Galaxy invites a level of emotion that's really appealing, that we move towards those ideas and those feelings that are compelling us and the team. And in the Nintendo Museum, a place that showcases every single creation from their playing cards from 1889 to the Nintendo Switch 2 games they released just recently, seeing the Mario movies also act as a tribute to all things Nintendo starts to become clear. It's a concept that allows them to put Yoshi, a character first introduced in Super Mario World, in a scene with the T-Rex from Super Mario Odyssey, despite those games being released 3 decades apart. Oh, and Yoshi's holding a Super Scope, a cool but unsuccessful light gun peripheral that Nintendo released for the Super NES, which weirdly enough also appeared in the ambitious but messy live-action Super Mario movie in 1993. And that's far from the only non-Mario franchise product or character that shows up in the Super Mario Galaxy movie, illustrating that these films don't exist just to celebrate Mario, but of all of Nintendo as a whole. This time, rather than thinking about where we're going to hide that, I was more taken aback and surprised at how many talented characters and actors there are in this world of Nintendo and in the world of Mario. And then within that, having say one Nintendo character appear, even just that appearance, we saw that there's a lot of joy to be had. And that's something that I love seeing, and something that gives these characters another potentially different opportunity, and kind of sharing the limelight is something that's really enjoyable to see. So from that perspective, I think having Rob in there was really impressive and exciting. Now, some would say that these kinds of references, nods, and Easter eggs highlighting Nintendo's past are simply just fan service, things to get older Nintendo fans in the audience, like me, to point at the screen and say, hey, I remember that. And while they wouldn't be wrong, Chris Meledandri points out that these kinds of decisions are made to make one very specific audience member happy. Just to share with you a perspective from the Illumination side of this, when you're working with Miyamoto-san, who is the embodiment of the spirit of Nintendo, what starts to happen among the team making the movie is that as our partner and collaborator, Miyamoto-san is also the most important audience member. So what happens is that the team actually is driven to delight Miyamoto-san. This is not, I don't ask them to do this, this is of course organic. So when ideas come up, everybody's always looking to say, what does Miyamoto-san think? And so that process, given that he is the spirit of Nintendo, does lead to indirectly a celebration of Nintendo. It makes sense that a Mario movie needs to please Miyamoto first and foremost. He created the character by hand back in the early 80s when Nintendo's failed radar scope arcade cabinets weren't bringing in the quarters like they'd hoped, and the company desperately needed a new game to drop into the units. That's when Miyamoto sat down and first drew characters like Donkey Kong and made him face off against the hero, Super Mario, then known as Mr. Video or Jumpman, resulting in the hit arcade game that pulled Nintendo out of potential financial peril. Super Mario went on to become a massive video game star of his own, spanning dozens of games that have reached tens of millions of players, and it's all thanks to some sketches that Shigeru Miyamoto made at a small desk in Kyoto over 4 decades ago. And these days, even though the character is in the hands of the massively talented animation team at Illumination, Miyamoto still manages to break out the drawing tools here and there when collaborating on the movies. When some of the CG drawings come up from Illumination for ideas, I will still kind of take my pen and kind of, do markings here and there. There's someone who kind of helps create my drawings into a very easily understandable illustration, and so we still go through the process of iterating and communicating in that way. Mario isn't the only Miyamoto creation that makes an appearance, seeing as the adorably mighty Pikmin characters also have a brief cameo in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Last year I asked Miyamoto if he'd ever like to see Pikmin in a movie or show, and he said that would be really fun. This year though, he was a bit more direct about his plan. Or should I say, mission. I'm on a mission to try to include Pikmin in any kind of Nintendo product we put up. And obviously Pikmin can be appearing anywhere, but the idea, the setting of Galaxy really lends itself to having Pikmin be there as part of the world. And so I was waiting in anticipation for what kind of ideas came from Illumination. Well, they're tiny and can travel through space to show up just about everywhere, so that's exactly where they'll go. When I covered the launch of Nintendo's new San Francisco store last year, I noticed that several of them were hiding in various corners. They're at the Nintendo Universal theme parks, they recently popped up in a short animated film made by Nintendo, as well as in the update for their 2023 mainline Mario game, Super Mario Wonder. And hey, you can even spot some at the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto if you know where to look. After all, Miyamoto has said before that he views Nintendo's character roster as a talent agency of sorts, frequently looking at them all and deciding which character suits which experience best. I would certainly like to believe that, we maybe have a Mario acting group, a troupe, a Mario troupe, where we consider casting differently every time. Or take, for example, Bowser as a character working with Illumination to see what kind of breadth or width of emotion and changes in evolution Bowser can have. Things like that are discussions that we continue to have. Movies, stories, theme parks, Nintendo has always tried to find ways to reach audiences outside of just core gamers, and with gaming trends changing rapidly, console gaming, a space Nintendo traditionally excelled in, is becoming less favored by younger audiences who are instead engaging with video games on mobile and PC, where Nintendo doesn't have a strong presence. That means they're less likely to grow up playing Super Mario games or being Nintendo fans in general, but Miyamoto sees the Mario movies as a place where new audiences can find the world of Nintendo for the first time and hopefully become lifelong fans. So right from the get-go, when I created Mario and, looking at Mickey Mouse is a character that evolves and grows alongside animation. And we felt that Mario is a character that grows and evolves alongside digital technology. And so as we have more digital technology, that allows many ways to distribute that and share that with more people. Those things come together to form this unison. And as we're talking about these films, we started to feel like films are another medium that Mario can star in and be featured in. And so really seeing that come together provides us with more opportunities for people to be able to engage with and be introduced to Nintendo, the world of Nintendo, and that this kind of coming together is something that I appreciate and I love seeing. As for Illumination's perspective, it seems they're just as eager to please new audiences and old ones, but more importantly, they're just really happy they get to work with Shigeru Miyamoto. The way that we work together is a collaboration unlike any that I've ever had in my career, and the process of making these movies is a process of discovery, and we always rely on Miyamoto-san's instinct about whether or not the integration feels right. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is out now, and I wouldn't be surprised if it marks another massive success for Illumination and Nintendo's partnership, but more importantly, a way to create new lifelong Nintendo fans to watch the movies, play the games, and look back at the company's incredible history with a big smile on their face. Thank you so much for watching, and for all things Super Mario, Nintendo, and video games in general, stick with IGN.